Ladies and gentlemen, the long-awaited, highly anticipated conversation with the Northsider, the Herman Award winner, the winner champion soccer player, and our guy, Dan Counce, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello. Well, nice introduction, Kevin. Thank you. I forgot about some of that.
Oh, yeah, baby. You're the guy. You're the guy,
Oh,
Dan. Now, I don't want to say I was, a little kid when I was watching you play, but
uh,
I, I wasn't at that level yet, and you just was the guy. He said, "I want to be like that guy. That guy's gonna go somewhere." And
well,
so,
I had the same thing when I was a little kid.
how's that?
Yeah, I grew up in North St. Louis, and I went to St. Michael's, uh, the Archangel School, where we had three nuns taught the whole school. So, like in my third grade class, we had second, third, and fourth grade all in one room.
Wow, man!
And my third grade, there were, I think there were like three boys and six girls. Yeah,
Wow, where about on the north side was this?
yeah, that was well. It's down, down around 14th Street, down in that area of North St. Louis.
Wow. I never
That
heard of such a place, man. I swear to
it was,
God, you're the first guy I ever heard
yeah,
went there.
it was St. Mike's, and they didn't have a soccer team. We didn't have enough kids. We didn't have enough kids to play.
Oh,
But I played a lot of hock sock. We used to play hock sock in the gymnasium
yeah.
at the Presbyterian church next to St. Mike's. They had
Wow.
a had a it was called Grace Hill House. It was like
The
a city
Grace Hill
recreation.
House? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Man,
you know
that's a
that.
legendary place.
Yeah, oh yeah. So I never played soccer. I played hock sock only. And
Wow.
and what happened? And then in sixth grade, after my fifth grade year, St. Mike's closed down. So it closed down.
Okay.
So I had to go to the next parish, which was Sacred Heart. So I went to Sacred Heart, and I lived on St. Louis Avenue, right at Highway 70 and St. Louis Avenue. That's where my house was.
Down the street from that place.
Yeah, from,
Yeah,
the malt shop
yeah, that place.
on Crown Candy.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, just down the street from there.
Wow.
So so then, and Sacred Heart was on St. Louis Avenue. So I used to just walk up St. Louis Avenue every morning, do my altar boy stuff, you know, and
Yeah.
then go
Oh,
to
absolutely.
walk home after school. But at Sacred Heart, we played in the schoolyard soccer every day. It was always hot sock. We played hot sock every day on the pavement. And we did that. So that's where I was, and that's where I got into outdoor soccer because Sacred Heart had an outdoor team.
Wow.
And they used to have like three levels. I think it was intermediate, parochial, and something else. But anyway, so we had a bunch of guys that liked to play soccer, and
Yeah.
and all we do was play soccer all the time.
Yeah. That's
And
how
we,
where you learn to dribble around five
yeah,
people.
but,
Wow.
yeah. Well, you know what happened is in the schoolyard, they had what we called it a merry-go-round, but it was just a big thing that you run around, you push it, and then you jump on it, and everybody
Yeah.
spins around. You know,
Yeah.
well, we had one of those, but it was like in the middle of our playground. So we used to play, and then we played when we played hot sock. One guy he dribble around the merry-go-round, right, to keep the defenders. The defenders would be on one side of the merry-go-round, and he's with the ball on the other side, trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to get a pass in or get out of this. And then in the alley, the goal was the back of the people who lived there, the garage door. That was one goal, and the other goal was painted on the brick wall of the school. And
Wow.
anyway, that's where we used to play. But anyway, I got really into it, at that age in sixth grade. So then I really, really liked it and played it every day, and you know, did all that kind of stuff. And then, and then it just evolved. And then, so at high school, the high school that everybody there went to was you either went to McBride, if you went to private school, all boys school, and then the DA was basically the Catholic regular high school, right? So I went to DA, and I made the varsity team my freshman year at DA, and so that was good. And Kim Tucci was my coach.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, he was my coach, and so and DA had a pretty good team, and so I played there and really loved it. And then the next year, my sophomore year, my parents moved to the suburbs.
Wow.
They moved us to Bell Fountain Neighbors.
Rich kid.
And that was that was Rosary High School.
Yeah,
right? We had no money, believe me. We had no money, but it was suburbs. We got to the suburbs.
Right. Yeah.
And we went. Then I went to Rosary, but I had already had like a really good year at DA, in soccer. And, I wore glasses. I looked like Clark Kent, right? I wore glasses, and I kind of kept to myself. And I sat at lunch with all the nerdy guys, at the nerd table, because I didn't know anybody, and I was shy, and I didn't know what to do and all that.
Wow.
So I did all that, and then the soccer season came around, right? So I went out on the field with all the other kids for the soccer. And the coach of the soccer team at that time was the football coach. He like moonlighted as the soccer coach too. He didn't know anything about soccer, but he was our coach. And so they got all the guys out there, and they got, freshmen, and, whether they were going to have a JV team and all that kind of stuff. And we're all standing there, and the coach says he didn't even know who I was. I mean, where I was. He knew my name and knew that I had done well at DA. And he says, Counce, where are you? And I raised my hand. So he says, come here. So I went out. And then he says, okay, you take these 10 guys over there and work them out. so I'm like the nerdy guy in the lunchroom, who now on the soccer field, I'm coaching the guys who are trying for the team, my fellow classmates.
Yeah.
Trying to team. And they're going, what the hell is this all about? So,
Dan,
anyway,
Dan Counce, you are well certified for that story. You're now the Superman. You were Clark Kent Superman for well certified. Okay.
Yeah, so we did that. And then we had Rosary, we were a pretty good team in those days.
Yeah,
So Yeah, we held our own against most teams, and we had some really good players. Robin Geis, you might remember that name.
Oh, yeah.
John Snyder on that team for a while. He was older than me, so he was only with us, I think, 1 year maybe two.
Did you say John Schneider?
Yeah, John Schneider.
Oh, far out. Yeah, he's a St. Louis guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and so John was on that team, and he was a good player.
Yeah.
So we had some good guys.
Yeah.
And we had a pretty good team, and so we did that, and then Kim Tucci also coached a Pepsi. What was it? The Pepsi League team, Holy Name.
Wow.
So I played for Kim on Holy Name, and we had a good team, and I played there. And there were some real good players there from DA that were on that Holy Name team, and Jim Mattingly was on that team.
Yeah.
Bob O'Leary was on that team.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah.
Dale Harmon.
Oh,
was on that
wow.
team. There were a bunch of good players on there.
Yeah.
And Joe Wright was the goalkeeper. He was very
wow. Good. Magnificent.
We had a really good team. So then DA, I did pretty well there. And then, Yeah, but now I was at Rosary, so Rosary, I was trying to build things there, and it went pretty well. Like we had a pretty good team, and then I used to go to Fairgrounds Park and sneak into the field when St. Louis U would play. They used to put a big tarp around the
Yeah,
field
right.
on Fairgrounds One.
I could never sneak in. You were great, man. You must have
Yeah,
had some.
yeah, we used to sneak in.
Yeah, I always
And
got caught.
and they used to change in the locker room that was about a soccer field length away from uh,
Wow.
number one. And it was very cool when they'd come out of the locker room, they'd all come out in their uniforms
Yeah,
and they'd go over to the field. And I thought, I want to do that someday.
nice.
I want to play for St. Louis U.
You always look good in the march, man. I always
Right,
pointed
right.
you out.
Yeah, and I wanted to play for St. Louis U. So then when I graduated from Rosary, the opportunity came to play for St. Louis U. But St. Louis U, we didn't have, we weren't. I wouldn't call us as a poor family, but we weren't. We were very lower middle class
Yeah,
financially. So my parents didn't have money, and
right.
I thought that. And if I go to St. Louis U, Harry offered me a partial scholarship, right?
Right.
And I think it was like $800 or something like that. And tuition wasn't a lot then. I think tuition was only like 1,600 or 1,800, something like
Yeah,
that.
but a lot
But
did, man.
still I thought, my parents got to pay that money.
Wow, yeah.
And then Gelker wanted me to go to SIU, and SIU had really nice fields and
Oh,
nice
yeah.
stuff. Everything was great over there. And Pat visited me. Pat McBride, he was the assistant coach at the time, and he visited and was real nice, and I was really happy to meet him. And I said to my dad, I said, I think I want to go to SIU. And he goes, really? And I said, yeah, I think I want to go to SIU because they're gonna give me a full scholarship. You guys, we don't need any money. We don't need anything. That's going to be a full scholarship. And my dad said, well, it just depends on what you want. And I said, what do you mean? He said, do you want a full scholarship or do you want to win? And I said, well, I would really like to win. He said, well, if I wanted to win, I think I'd go to St. Louis U. So I would. So but I said, I appreciated what my dad said, but I didn't want them spending the money. And Dave Berwin was my youth coach at that time. Dave
Yeah.
was a great, great, great part of my development as a player. And so I called Dave. I believe this is the way it went down. I called Dave, and Dave had a really good, close relationship with Harry and Val and those guys, because a lot of the Philip guys went to St. Louis U, right? The St.
Yeah,
Philip Narrow.
right, yeah.
And Dave called, and I said, Dave, I'm going to go to SIU. You going to go to SIU? I said, yeah. He said, oh. I said, hey, it's a full scholarship. My parents don't have to shell out any money. At St. Louis U, it's going to cost me some money. And, I don't want to put that burden on my mom and dad. And, he goes, well, okay. And then he hung up. About a half hour later, my phone rings. Says Harry Keel. He says, Dan, we'll give you a full scholarship. So I said, yeah. He said, yeah, you come to St. Louis U, we'll give you a full scholarship. So I said, okay, I'm coming.
Wow.
And then I called Gelker and told him, that I'm sorry. It was everything was great, but I just always wanted to go to St. Louis U, and they're going to give me a full ride. I'm going to go there.
Wow.
So,
Man.
but it was, literally probably 15, 20 minutes away from me calling SIU and telling them I'm coming.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
And the only one who could confirm that, I guess, would be Dave Berwin, but pretty much the way I remember it.
Yeah.
And went to St. Louis U. I was really excited. Went there and so impressed with all the other players that were there. There were so many good players there.
Yeah. Were you on that last end of Altros?
Yeah, oh yeah, I played with Al. Was a senior when I was a freshman.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Al was there. Well, I think the two best players in St. Louis during my era of time, I think, was Al Trost and Pat McBride.
You
Those two
played with them
guys,
all.
yeah, those two guys were, I think, the two best. And then
Wow.
there's a group below those guys that aren't that much farther back.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah, but they're there, and so I played with Al, and we hit it off, and we knew each other, and so that was good.
Yeah. And then
And
you
we had a lot of St. Philip guys at St. Louis at that time, and then I became close friends with all the Southsiders. Madison, Bokern, Warner, all
nice.
those all those guys. All the St. Mary's guys.
Yeah,
You
man.
know,
Yeah. Didn't take a
yeah.
back seat to nobody.
No, so we really had a. So our freshman year, I think we won the championship my freshman year, and I think we had six freshmen starting in the game.
Wow.
Hadigan,
Wow.
there was Gemling, Hadigan, me, Madison, Denny Werner,
Wow.
and somebody else maybe Bokern, or can't remember who the other one was.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
but we had six freshmen starting, and we won the championship
Yeah, you did.
over at SIU. We won it over at SIU.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was the diving header from Denny Hannigan, huh?
yeah. Well, Denny, he won't ever let us forget that picture and the goal. You know, he, I bet if you went in Denny's house in the living room, he's got like a 6 foot high photo of that hanging on the wall for sure.
Oh, you know it, man.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
probably
yeah,
got one above his bed too. His poor wife Mary, she has to look at.
beautiful, beautiful. Yes, and
Yeah,
you, man, that would have been something out there at San Jose to jump ahead with the Dimling brothers and him,
yeah,
and
yeah. It was great.
oh
But
my
what
God,
happened? We had a Yugoslavian coach, and I got the feeling after I got there that the deal was made for me. He wasn't part of it. You know what I mean? They didn't
oh,
ask him, or they just. I think
oh,
the guy, general manager, because I won the Herman Trophy, he thought, well, let's get this guy. You know what I mean?
oh boy,
And they took me, and I was playing, and I was on the national team at that time too. And I just came back from Europe with the national team, and I had a little bit of an injury, like a hamstring pull, I think, or groin pull, something like that. And so I came back, and we're training, and I think Mark really, the guys really liked this coach, but he was a different type. He was from Europe, and
yeah,
he did things the way they do it in Europe.
yeah, right,
And, and so anyway, I would play, like, start a game, sit on the bench the next game, start a game, sit on the bench the next game, and he called me Dave all the time. And I thought to myself, well, you know what? When the coach doesn't know your first name,
you gotta go.
yeah, you got to get out of there. You got to get out of there. So halfway through the season, I go to him and say, it doesn't look like I'm in your plans, and I understand that, and I know how things go. But I said I would prefer if you would move me on to another team where I will, where I have a better chance of playing, because we weren't making money. We weren't making big money, so it wasn't about the money. It was just about I wanted to play. I needed to
Yeah,
play, and he was kind enough, I think, to agree with that. So I think that was his feelings anyway. So he ends up San Antonio hired an American guy from California as their coach. His name
nice.
was Don Beatty, I think was his name.
Wow.
And they hired him. He was like a Chico State soccer coach out in California.
Yeah, yeah.
They hired him, and he knew me from the college scene, right? And he wanted me. So I don't know what they traded or how it all happened. But
Wow.
anyway, I ended up in San Antonio. And San Antonio was really haphazard. It was really low quality facilities. Uh, really, we had a bunch of South Americans and Mexican guys too that didn't speak any English. So it was a really odd experience for me because growing up in St. Louis, we only played with Americans.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so we, so I'm in San Antonio, and so I finished out the second half of the Chris Carenza was there with me. Chris?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Chris was in San Antonio with me, and Kevin Missy is
Yeah.
the name.
Know the name. Umsel. Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin Missy they were all on that team with me, and I don't think there was any other St. Louis guys, but anyway, so we just did so. But I felt pretty good. I felt like I was playing pretty good. So I liked the fact that we made that move. Well, then the next season starts.
Hey, hold on, Dan. We gotta stop you there. I gotta go back several years to where you're going. You win at SLU, and then you have 2 years behind Mike Siri until you win the Herman Award. How was that all? How was that, man?
Oh, that was that at the time that was like the biggest award a college soccer player could get, right?
Yeah.
And the most recognition. And I got a little bit of a funny story about that one. Is that when I won that, I was in Boston, and Hubert Vogelsinger. I don't know if you recognize
Yeah.
that name.
Oh, yeah.
He's the coach of Boston, and Hubert was a very like if he's not having conflict with you, you don't have a relationship. He's got to, he's got to yell. He's got to be on you all the time. And I didn't realize that when he's on you all the time, I think he loves you. I think he likes
beautiful.
you. But anyway, see, he's on me. I'm starting and playing all the games, but he's killing me. And our relationship, in my opinion, I thought was rocky. But he always chose me, always, picked me and that kind of stuff. So then I get a message that they're having a media luncheon in Manhattan at Mama Leone's Italian restaurant. It's a big, well-known kind of sports Italian restaurant in Manhattan. And all the media is going to be there, New York Times, all these people, right? And we want you to go from Boston down there for the luncheon, okay? So, I'm excited by that, but I don't want to miss training,
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to, this day, and we trained in the morning, and we trained in the afternoon. So I thought, well, I'll miss the morning, because at that time they had shuttles, half-hour shuttles that go to Manhattan from Boston every half hour to get on a plane, And so I thought, well, I'll miss the morning training, right? And I'll go to Manhattan. And after because we trained in the evening at that time of the summer in Boston, and then I'll get on a flight and come back, and I'll be back to training, right? And so, I thought I was being really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll take off the whole day, right? Well, so I do that. I go to head to the banquet, and I say a few words and get a few pats on the back. And I don't remember if they gave me the trophy there or not. I don't remember. But anyway, then I race in a taxi to get to the airport, to get on a plane, get back to Boston, and get on the train, Boston. It stops. The last stop I think it was the Green Line. The last stop was right at Boston College where we trained. So I get on the subway. I go there. I run in the locker room. The players are already on the field, and they're in a circle sitting down on the field, and Vogelsinger's speaking. And I get dressed and everything. I run out to the field, and he says to me, "You're late." And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? I shouldn't even be here in my mind, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But what he was really trying to do was he had some discipline issues with some of the British guys, and he really was trying to talk to me like he should talk to them, but he didn't have the guts to talk to them. You know? So he says, "We're going to find you. I'm going to find you." And I'm thinking, "You're going to find me?" And then, and this was a little bit not so great of me, but I was a North St. Louis. And,
Here you go. You got a reprieve. You got to.
Yeah. So he said, "We're going to find you," and I said, "You're going to do what?" He says, "I'm going to find you," and it was like, I don't know, $50 maybe. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was a lot of money to me at the time. And I said, "You don't pay me enough to find me."
Exactly.
He says, "What?" I says, "What you really want is find these guys." And I pointed to these British guys.
Oh, beautiful.
But I said, "You don't have the guts to do it."
Wow, that's beautiful.
Ooh. Yeah, well, not so beautiful.
Oh.
He wasn't happy.
Okay.
And I wasn't feeling proud afterwards. I was thinking, "Oh, Dan, you shouldn't have done that."
Yeah, right.
You should have kept your mouth shut. And, but I was just so pissed off.
Yeah.
It was like a big moment for me. And then I come back and I don't get, "Hey, congratulations."
Yeah.
Like that. I get like, "You're late." And believe me, I was like 5 minutes late. I wasn't like,
yeah.
They hadn't trained yet. They hadn't even started training yet. They were just talking.
Right.
And so anyway, so that happened. But and then after the season, I said, as I told you before, I need to get out of Boston. So then I ended up in San Jose, and that was I liked it there, but I wasn't playing. So then I ended up in San Antonio.
Yeah. Did you juggle in the Alamo?
No, I didn't.
Shucks.
But I couldn't believe it. The Alamo was right downtown, and I thought, I wasn't what I was expecting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when we flew in on the plane, I go, "That's the Alamo down there?" So anyway. So then the next year, though, what was really cool is the American coach, he brings in some pretty good quality British guys. And one of them is Bobby Moore.
Wow.
Yeah, and Bobby Moore was at that time one of the biggest names in the sport.
Yeah.
Pele and Bobby Moore were probably two of the biggest in that era.
Yeah, he said he was the best defender.
Yeah, and so Bobby Moore is the captain of our team, and we had a couple other British guys, and we had a pretty good team, and we did pretty well. And I played all the time. I played all the time there, and it was really, really good. And then that season ended, and the team moved to Honolulu. San Antonio moves to Honolulu. And then I go, I got to go to Honolulu. Even though I was a free agent, I re-signed my contract, and said, because there's no way I'm not going to Honolulu, right?
Team America, huh?
No, it wasn't Team America.
No, it wasn't.
It was Antonio Thunder.
Wow.
Now it was the, I don't know what we call it, Hawaii Thunder, or I don't remember what it was.
Wow.
But we played in Aloha Stadium on Oahu, on the AstroTurf field, and that's where we trained. And we had nice apartments. The accommodations were good. So I was enjoying it. I would train all morning hard, get up, get my pair of stripes on, and a T-shirt, go to the beach, snorkel for half hour, 45 minutes.
Living the life.
Yeah, it was a good life. It was a good life. And I was playing all the time there, so that was good. But then after the season, Ward Lay, who owned the Hawaii team, he had enough. That was his third season owning, So he sells the team to somebody, I don't remember the name of the people that bought it, but they become the Tulsa Roughnecks.
Wow.
And they called me, and I said, "I'm not going to Tulsa." I said, I've been living in Honolulu. There's no way I'm going to Tulsa,
Yeah.
And I just said, that's not possible. I can't do it. I'll have withdrawal. So I do that. And then I'm searching for a team. I'm a free agent searching for a team. And St. Louis moves to Southern California. And I used to train in the off season frequently with John Sewell was the coach of the Stars.
Yeah.
And I used to train with all the St. Louis guys because I knew them all, right?
Right.
And,
Right.
and I, in the off season, we'd be kicking around here in St. Louis. I trained with them. So Sewell got to know me and see me.
Yeah.
And I think he liked what he saw. So he says, Dan, how would you like to
Yeah.
go to
I'll
California
see
with
you.
us?
I'll see you on the beach. On the beach.
Yeah. Yeah. I said, yeah, that sounds good to me. So I went to that year. I went to play for the California Surf with O'Leary, Joe Clark,
Yep.
Al Trost.
Yep.
I forget the name, a goalkeeper guy. I forget his name now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. God. My gosh. I
Yeah,
love the guy.
yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I do that,
Jokers.
and yeah, Dave Jokers, and John Sewell signs like 4 or 5 English guys. Now I think in the first 8 or 10 games, we end up being like 8-2 or 9-1 or something like that. Or I think maybe we only lost one game. Maybe we had a couple ties or something. But we're playing almost entirely Americans, and we're kicking some butt.
Yeah, you are.
And we're doing well. And then these guys come in like in May, after their season in England, and all 4 or 5 of them, they're in the starting lineup immediately. And we're going like, wait, we're winning games,
Yeah.
but it didn't. So he starts all these British guys, and they were good players, and they were all good guys too. I didn't dislike any of them, but it just didn't seem appropriate. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And we were also waving the American flag all the time whenever we had a chance, right? So anyway, we did that. The very first game of the season, I scored a goal. We're playing in Anaheim Stadium. And we got 15, 16,000 people. It was pretty good, pretty neat. And I'm enjoying myself. I think this is pretty good, So I'm playing and things are going okay. Then I suffered an injury. I think I twisted my ankle or something like that. I can't remember. So I sat out a couple games. And then I was back in. And now the whole kind of demeanor of the team changed a little bit. But I think Sewell really liked me as a player. So I felt comfortable with him. And that if I was good enough and well enough to play, that he'd be playing me, So, but it was good. So I played that season there. And then we had a player strike. And I happened to be, and Al Trost happened to be the player reps for our team.
Yeah.
And what they did, they either cut or moved every rep from wherever team he was on.
Wow.
They moved him. So Al got moved to Seattle, and nobody picked me up.
Wow.
So they're thinking, shit, Dan, what are you going to do?
Yeah, right.
The indoor league started at that time, and Philadelphia had a team. It was pretty good. And they called me and said, hey, we're almost halfway through the season, but you want to come to Philadelphia and play the rest of the season with us? And then you can go back to the NFL after that. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. So I flew into Philadelphia, played indoor with the indoor. Yeah, and I liked it because hock sock was my game. You know what I mean? I grew up
it
playing
was.
hockey.
Yeah.
So indoor soccer was like being at home for me. So I went with Philadelphia. We went to the final. We lost the New York Arrows in the final. And then the season's over, and now the NASL season's getting ready to start. And I get a call from one of the English guys that I played with over the years, who is now the assistant player coach in Toronto. And he calls me and says, Dan, what are you doing? I said, well, I just finished the indoor season. I'm looking to try to get hooked on with a team if I can get one. He goes, well, how about Toronto? And I said, well, what? He goes, in Canada, we don't have all this tension about the strike and the union and all that because we just have to abide by whatever they decide in the U.S. So there was no friction up there about a player rep or that stuff, right?
Yeah.
In Toronto, so he said, don't worry about that. Come on up here. And I said, well, he says, we're going to Florida tomorrow. Why don't you come down and be with us come down for a week or 10 days. Let the coach see you. And if he likes you, we'll sign you. I said, all right, that sounds good. I got nothing else going. So I flew to Fort Lauderdale. We played a scrimmage game or a practice game against somebody, and I didn't start the game. And about 20 minutes into the game, the coach says, Counce, get ready. So I got ready. I went in, and in the last half of the first half, I scored 2 goals. Boom, boom. and then he was like ecstatic, right? He was all psyched up.
All right.
So then after the game, he said, you know what? I think we want to sign you. So I said, oh, okay. So he says, I'll give you 4 or 5 days, fly back home, get your stuff all together, get it shipped to Canada, and then when we're done here, we'll meet you in Toronto. So I did that, and then I went to Toronto, and then in Toronto, I played again. I started a game or 2 games, and then I was on the bench, coming off the bench, and then started another game, and then coming off the bench. And, like I said, I was a young guy, not making any money. If I wasn't playing, I wasn't happy, which was not necessarily, I guess, the best attitude. But that's the way I was. So then I went to Toronto. Oh, so then Toronto, the season ended, and I was a free agent because every contract that I had signed was
That's right.
a free agent contract.
Yeah.
So I signed a free agent contract, and then I get a call from, I guess it was Pat McBride, saying, Dan, we're going to have an indoor team in St. Louis. And I said, oh, yeah? He says, you interested in playing for it? I said, yeah, I'll come down. So I went down to St. Louis, started training with I think I might have been the first player they signed, maybe.
Nice.
And went down and played and had a good year. We packed the old arena there. I forget.
Oh, yeah, you did. The
barn.
Yeah.
Yeah, we packed it. And we did really well, and I did pretty well. And I was feeling pretty good. I'm like 27, thinking, I realized I wasn't going to be Pele, although it was a shock to me, but I realized it.
All right, yeah.
That I wasn't going to be Pele. And then I'm playing in my hometown. I'm scoring goals. I'm feeling good. We got big crowds. And I also was the player assistant coach before the season. Pat came to me and said, Dan, I want you to be my assistant coach. I said, oh, Pat, I don't really want to do that. I really want to just play, I just let me play because I don't want to get into all that, because it's a difficult thing to manage with the players and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right.
If I fuck up, it's okay then, they're thinking, right? Yeah, you can fuck up and be the coach, but I can't fuck up. Would that be on it? Oh, no. I'm sorry. Can you believe it? I'm sorry. I told myself not to do that, too. Shoot.
It's okay, babe. It's okay. You got absolution. It's Palm Sunday.
Yeah, all right. So then I played with the Steamers. We had a really good first year. Everything's exciting. I had met a woman in Toronto. So I went back to Canada, and I played in the semi-pro. They had a pro league in Toronto. It is an ethnic league where you get paid you get paid a couple $100 a game, that kind of thing. And so I played for this, I think it was a Greek team. I played for them in the summer while I was up there. And it was the next season, and I'm calling St. Louis to get my new contract. And they go, oh, yeah, Dan, we want you back for sure. And they're not sending me a contract, and we're not talking about, and I'm thinking, come on, what's going on? And then they're signing all these other players, Ty Keogh, Steve Petcher, all these guys are good players, good guys, but they're signing people and they're not signing me.
Yeah.
And I think that Pat felt kind of like how I felt earlier on, was that, where am I going? This is where I finished my playing days, right? In St. Louis, in front of big crowds. I couldn't ask for a lot, But they weren't doing it. And Tim Lywicki was the front office guy.
Right.
in the early days of the Steamers. And so I'm in Toronto, and my phone rings, and it's Tim Lywicki. And he goes, Tim says, Dan, what are you doing? I said, hey, I'm just waiting. I'm hoping I want to go back to St. Louis and finish out there. I said, I think that's going to be it for me, you know. He goes, well, I'm the new president general manager of the Baltimore Blast. And, yeah, and I go, oh, yeah, what's that? And he said, well, we're putting the team in Baltimore, and I'm the new head guy. And he says, I want you. And he knew I was a free agent, right? Because he worked in the front
office
in St. Louis. And I said, well, that's great, Tim. But I said, I really want to go back to St. Louis, really, you know. And then so I tried one more outreach to get somebody to call me back and offer me a contract or say, give me a date when they're going to do it or something. And it just got delayed and delayed. And then I said, and then Tim said, well, what are you going to do? I said, and I was a little angry now, you know, that I said, you want me in Baltimore? He said, yeah. I said, okay, I'm interested in going to Baltimore. I need to make this much money. I can't remember how much it was at the time. And I would like, in the off season, to have some kind of a position in the front office and learn the business side of the sport. And he immediately says, you got it.
Beautiful.
You got it. You know?
Yeah, baby.
And I said, really? I said, really? He said, yeah. And this was like a Friday or a Saturday. And he says, we got a press conference on Monday morning. I'll get a ticket. I'll see you then. So then a half hour later, he does a press release. And then about an hour later, my phone rings and it's Pat. Pat says, Dan, what are you doing?
Oh, no.
I said, Pat, you haven't given me a contract. You haven't offered me any money yet. You haven't told me what we're going to do. And you're signing all these other guys. And I know the business well enough. There's not going to be any money left when you get to, you know what I mean? And he said, well, you haven't signed yet. And I said, that's right. I haven't signed yet. But I gave him my word. And I'm hopping on a plane tomorrow morning and going to Baltimore. And that was it. Went to Baltimore. And then I became player assistant coach in Baltimore under Kenny Cooper. And Kenny Cooper and I played against each other. He was the Dallas goalkeeper.
Yeah, he was.
And he's a hard worker. He's the kind of guy that got a lot out of his ability.
Yeah.
You know, he worked hard to get where he was. And I was the same. I didn't think I had the ability of some of these guys, but I worked hard enough to get it, you know, and earn it.
Right.
And so we had a similar philosophy on the game. So, and I had already just St. Louis. And I thought, yeah, I'll do it again. So I became the coach there, and I was there for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, you were.
And we beat the Steamers in the MISL final. Yeah. I think we did, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I did with him there, and that was good. And I played out. Now I'm like 32, 33, you know, somewhere around there, maybe even 34. And I'm, you know, working in the office team. And Quillman had his indoor facility that he had opened up, right?
Hey, you're starting to cut out a little bit, Dan. Are you okay with the phone?
Yeah, I think so. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little bit better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Twillman had opened an indoor place.
Just for kicks.
Yeah, just for kicks in St. Louis. And I had been there a couple times, and actually I don't know if we trained there or not. I can't remember, but so I there wasn't one. I think that was the only one I knew of in the country at that time.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I opened an indoor place in Baltimore called Just for Kicks.
Oh, nice.
And it was a big hit. You know, it was a big hit, and we were packing them in. And actually, the Blast came back to me and rented my place for every morning for their training sessions. You know, so I was making money out of the Blast on the facility and doing really well with the teams. And I was no longer involved with the team, you know, other than they were training in my facility.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at opening up another one. And then I get a call from one of the owners of the Blast, and they said, Dan, we'd like you to come back and be the president and general manager of the Blast. So, oh, shit. Really? And they said, yeah. So then I talked to my business partner, and I said, what do you, should I do it? What do you think? And he goes, well, it's indoor soccer. That's what we are. We're indoor soccer, these facilities. He says, I think you should do it. I think you should just go ahead and do it. I'll run the place. I'll take care of it. And you go back to the team. So I went back to the team and was the general manager of the team for another, 5 or 6 years. President, general manager.
Yeah.
Then,
did you get a tailor for your suits?
Oh yeah, we had all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, we had all that. Yeah. So anyway, that was kind of the road I took, and then I moved. I know what happened. St. Louis got they went under, or somebody bought the team, or something happened. Did the what was it? The Steamers? Did the Steamers go out of business?
Yes, it did. Yeah, to the Storm,
So
I
they
believe.
went out of business, and then
To the Ambush and the Storm.
Yeah, so then the Storm, the Ambush was after the Storm, I think, wasn't it?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So when the Storm came in, and I get a call saying, Dan, you want to be president of the Storm? So now I'm thinking, well, that would be cool because I get to go back home, right? And I'll do that, So then we did that, and we did well on the field. We signed Preki, and even Dan Donegan, he was one of our first draft picks, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but so we did okay, and it was owned by Ivan Toplak. No, not Ivan Toplak, another Yugoslavian guy. I can't think of his name now.
Right.
But a Yugoslavian guy.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, and then we're not making money, but we're filling. We're not packing it in like the Steamers, but we're doing, 13,000, 12,000, 14,000.
Yeah.
We're doing good crowds, but he's still losing a ton of money, right?
Right.
And so the money starts to dry up. And some of the people in St. Louis we owed money to, my reputation was kind of attached to that.
Oh, yes, it is.
And so I go to the owner and I say, listen, man, we gotta do something about this, We gotta, do this, do that, do this, do that. And he's giving me a lot of lip service. Yeah, okay, we'll do it, And then basically push come to shove, they were going to go out of business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and I, before it went out of business, I said, well, you know what? I can't function. His name was Milan Mandrick. That was his name, I think. Milan Mandrick. I said, I can't function like this. I gotta go. You're going to have to get somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So then what are you going to do, Dan? And then I started an import-export business.
Hey, you talking to yourself or you talking to somebody?
Yeah. No, I'm talking to you.
Okay, thanks.
You're not hearing me?
No. I was because you.
What I said. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Dan,
yeah.
what are you
Anyway,
gonna?
That's the long and short of it. So I started import-export business, doing reasonably well, and then I get a call out of the blue. My soccer life is over. I get a call out of the blue, and it's Phil Anschutz from the Colorado. What were they called back then?
Rapids?
Oh no, the Rapids. Yeah, Colorado. It's still called that. Yeah, the Colorado Rapids. So I get a call, and it's Phil Anschutz. Dan, I'd be interested in talking to you. This was after the first year of the league. So the first year they did terribly in Denver, and they fired their president general manager, and they needed a new guy. And somehow my name came up, and he called me. He said, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm interested." But I wasn't sure. You know what I mean? I was kind of I just started making some serious kind of money in my business.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I've been doing this 3 or 4 years now, and the money's starting to roll in.
Mm-hmm.
Good. And he says, well, can you come here tomorrow? And I said, no, I can't come tomorrow. I said, but I'll come on Monday. It was like Thursday or Friday when he called. So I said, I'll come on Monday. I got on the plane, and I was excited like crazy. I couldn't stand myself.
Yeah.
I wanted the job, and I'm thinking, Dan, you can't do that, you know. And I said, I want to do it, you know. In my mind, I'm talking to
Yeah.
myself.
Right. Right.
So I sold the business. First of all, I went and met Anschutz, and I thought he was great. And there were a number of other people they were interviewing, and at that time, Lywicki, and that's probably where he got my name. Lywicki was the president of the LA Kings hockey team, and Anschutz owned the LA Kings at that time.
Yeah.
And so Lywicki must have told them, hey, if you're looking for somebody, call this guy, right? Me. So after I met with him and I wanted the job, I got on the phone and I called Lywicki, and I said, Tim, I don't know what influence you have with him or if you guys talk or what, but I said I want that job. And I ended up getting it.
Wow.
So then I moved to Denver, was the GM for 5, 6, 7 years, 8 years. I don't know how long it was. 10 years. Well, no, it was like 98, probably 8 years, eight seasons or something like that. And it was the greatest experience from a work perspective that I had ever had. It was really, really good.
Oh,
So
man.
I did that, and then Anschutz owns like 5 teams now, and he says, or he realizes, hey, this league can't survive with me owning all the teams, and also with all the money I'm losing. He was losing, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million a year, and that's way back when, right? And the big cities like Chicago, and he's losing 8-9 million a year in those cities. So he starts to divest himself of the teams, and they end up selling the soccer team to Kroenke. And that was a disaster for me. Are you rocking out?
Oh, it was just that. I had to do it so I wouldn't get nauseated. Oh,
Yeah.
Cronky. That's all you need to say, and everything goes.
Oh no, it was yeah. So it wasn't good for me, and he didn't understand what he had, and it was really about a real estate. He bought it about a real estate deal. They were going to build a stadium and all that kind of stuff, which they did, and then there would be development rights around the stadium with shopping malls and all that kind of stuff. So it was, I had a contract, so I was still there, and I was at least a little smarter this time. I didn't quit when I had a contract. I thought, as long as my contract's out here. But once my contract was up, I knew they weren't going to renew it, and I was out. And he had 3 or 4 guys in his organization.
Oh, absolutely.
All did my job. They were all behind the scenes,
Yeah.
to get my job. So I knew it wasn't going to last.
No, man.
So then I left the soccer business at that point, and I started a little kind of construction business, remodeling, some commercial stuff and residential stuff, and did quite well at that. Then the market crashed in 2008.
Yeah.
And I just did only remodeling, but I was doing pretty well with the remodeling. And I had other people that I knew that were very rich that said, Dan, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great. Because I'm telling you, he says, right now, people are losing 20, 30, $40 million, like that.
Yeah.
And they got money, and one day and the next day they got nothing.
Yikes.
So he said, keep doing what you're doing. So I did that. And that was pretty much the way it went, And then my daughters got older, got married, had kids. One of them's got a kid, and I'm doing the grandpa life now.
Nice.
And one thing that I will tell you that I do, I was watching too much TV. I was watching now. There's so much soccer on, Kevin. You know it. I watched so much soccer. I couldn't believe it. And all I did was eat and watch soccer.
Yeah.
And I was getting fat. I thought I gotta I got to do something about that, So
Yeah.
anyway, I ended up going to work at the post office part time, delivering packages, and so I do that 3 days a week, 3 days a week. Now I fill in for them when they need somebody, and I thought it was kind of a little bit of a complete circle around, and that two of the really influential guys in my life were both mailmen,
How
Harry
about that?
Keel, Val Palazero. They
Yeah.
both, and I thought that's kind of cool. I'll do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then Joe Ham was a mailman, so I thought if Joe can do it, I can do it.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful, man.
So that's what I did, and that's the
Yeah.
background.
I'm grinning from ear to ear, man. Wow. That was
That
really.
is that any good?
What's that?
Is what I said okay?
All the same, you're a well certified Hall of Fame, Dan Counts.
All
I
right,
mean, yeah, and
all right.
you
That's
could
good.
you could have a beard or no beard, black shoes or white shoes. You're in the Hall
Yeah.
of Fame, man.
All right, good.
Yeah,
Well, sure, I'm there with a bunch of other great guys. I have to tell you, both the Dumlings, I love those guys. All of those, so many of those guys from St. Louis U that I played with
yeah,
were, were Hannigan,
yeah,
Al Stepp, Denny Werner,
yeah,
Bob Madison, Jim Bokern,
yeah,
all those guys, Jim Gutman. They
yeah.
were, we became such tight knit friends
Right.
as players. And I think really that was kind of the key to the success of our teams was really, I think Harry and Val created the environment where you could really do that and feel part of even the guys I think that didn't play that much sometimes they still were into it. They
Yeah.
felt
Right.
their contribution they could make, they were willing to do it.
Yeah.
And, it was really a special moment in my life, that St. Louis U time.
Yeah.
And I I don't have
No.
any regret about that at all. Except,
They put you all on top
have
shelf
you talked
also.
to have you talked to Tommy Howe at all? Have you done him at all, or done anything with him?
No, he's a recluse.
Oh, he's a recluse now.
Yeah.
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 I was calling myself the Cougar Killer because I scored I think 7 goals in the 4 games that we played them, or 4 or 5 games. I think I scored 6 or 7 goals against them. And so whenever I would see Tommy at the old timers or the Hall of Fame banquet or something, I'd say, Tommy, you want to say hi to the Cougar Killer? And he would get pissed off, man. He'd get, oh man, he want to kill me.
Yeah, he shut you out in that state championship game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That coach told him, "Get on him like a blanket."
He shut me out. I think I must have had one leg tied behind my back and one eye closed. But I don't think that could ever happen.
Beautiful, man. I mean to tell you, you are a jewel, man.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I appreciate. I'm going to let you go now, Kev.
Oh, oh. Well, here. Can you say this?
Uh-huh.
Whatever you want to say to who you ever want to say it to, for as long as you want to say it for. What do you got?
Okay. Well, what I really I want to thank. Some of these people are gone, but really want to thank Dave Berwin, Pat McBride, Harry Keel, Palazero, and then all the guys I played with and all the guys from my class, the ones I've mentioned already. I was so fortunate and so lucky to be within that group that I don't think if I was in that group I would have had the same kind of thing happen,
Right.
And so I want to say that I love them guys. They're great people, and I wish them all well. And I look forward to the next time I can come into a city game and I'm really thankful that I saw Pat McBride at a city game last summer.
Nice.
and we got to talk, and it was very meaningful to me, and I really appreciated that,
Right
So
on.
okay, and
Peace.
I appreciate you, Kevin. Thank you, and Kevin, I got to call my brother and talk to him about your dad.
All right. I can't wait. I can't wait,
Yeah,
man.
I'll give you some feedback if my brother should know your dad, right?
Oh yeah, with the fitters. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Yeah, they got some good stories. We can't put it on air, but they
No,
got
no,
some.
that's the X-rated version. That's the X-rated version. That's right. All right, Kev, I'm gonna let you go. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And
Thanks for thinking of me, and tell all of the guys from my era when you have me them on your show that I really appreciate what they. I mean, they talk
guarantee.
about years of the game, and I really think those guys back then, and even the guys before us, were really, the Harry Keels and types, and those guys were really the real pioneers of the game for us, and have really contributed to make the game what it is becoming today.
Well said.
So good. All right, Kev. Thanks.
All right, Dan. Good night.
Bye. Bye.